It's preseason time, and it is Wednesday. That means it is another Winky Wednesday here on Locked On 49ers, breaking down preseason week number 1, looking ahead to the best preseason battles, position battles in preseason week number 2, and some very interesting comments and ideas about Sam Darnold, QB2 or QB1 maybe. All coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Nicholas Winkler with you on this Winky Wednesday edition. It's a Winky Tuesday evening if you're following along and catching us first thing on YouTube when we throw up the podcasts in the evening, as we do from time to time. Usually every single day we do that. I like to have them for you fresh in the morning. So no matter how early you get up and go to work, you've got a fresh podcast in your feed. At BD Peacock, at Bay Area Wink. You might ask, where's Mr. Eric Crocker? Crocker still on his way across the country from Las Vegas to Arkansas. It's a hell of a drive. It's like a multi-day drive. So he's doing that thing, and we're going to have Croc back with us tomorrow, and he'll have his thoughts on preseason football and everything going on. He's probably had an opportunity to think about that football game numerous times, and I want to get what his angle was being in Las Vegas, and he had a pretty cool experience there with one of his heroes, Charles Woodson, at an event. It was kind of a Raiders-y event, but he was the 49ers voice there at that event with Charles Woodson, which is pretty cool. So we'll get Croc back on the show tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to all the everydayers. The everydayers know who he is, Nick Winkler, our weekly guest here on the pod, a.k.a. the voice of the fan, and my former colleague, a former podcast host of mine, a colleague in the radio business. And so it's always fun to catch up, Nick. And I'm sure there's something you're stinking on. We used to do the wink and the stink when things were going bad. That preseason game was not a beautiful watch for 49ers fans. So if you want to get that one off your chest first, what were your thoughts on preseason week number 1?
Well, as voice of the fan, I think we were all collectively thinking, what the hell was that? Like, come on, we wait so long to see some football, and we know it's going to be backups, and we know it's not going to be pretty because it's preseason and this and that, but you're looking for some bright spots too, and there just weren't a whole lot that came out of this game. I got a couple, but it's like, just looked like bad play after bad play, and the defense just getting run through, and it was a hard watch. You know, as somebody who knows it doesn't count, you know, it's a preseason game. You don't necessarily have to watch it if you don't have to. But me, along with everybody else, I'm sure that's listening right now, watched every snap of that game because it's 49ers football. And that's what we do. It was painful, especially to the Raiders. Like, you just don't want to look like that against the Raiders. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
I got some comments on YouTube like, oh, the 49ers were bad, huh? What about the Raiders are really good? And I was like, I don't know, unless they signed the second coming of Aaron Donald as one of their backup defensive linemen. I think it was more about the 49ers potentially not playing great in that football game. There's an idea out there floating around, Wink, that maybe Kyle Shanahan was kind of overlooking the first preseason game because he was really worried about the joint practices and getting his work with the ones. And, nobody was playing in the preseason game. And so it was sort of an afterthought. And it kind of looked like they didn't practice any of those plays during the joint practices, or showed him all the plays during the joint practices and just ran the same ones, so they knew it was coming. That's what it felt like.
That's what it feels like, because we talk about it, right? Leading up to this, we're like, what's it going to be? Well, it's going to be vanilla. We know that. We're not going to see a lot of these really fun looking plays that Kyle's worked on in the offseason that are going to be a new wrinkle to his offense, which we know we're going to see come week 1, week 2, week 3. He's going to start rolling these things out. This play that leads into this play that sets up this play. And there was none of that on Sunday. It was just straight, hey, we're going to either, drop back pass, or we're just going to hand the ball off. And so as a 49er fan, just relax, just chill out. Like, nobody won or lost a job during this game. I think a few people definitely opened some eyes, good and bad. And that's kind of what preseason games are for. I think we're going to know a lot more this weekend in the second preseason game for sure.
Trey Lance certainly didn't come out, in rhythm, and nobody really on the offense did. Did you come away disappointed? Did you come away with any big takes on Trey Lance? Or are you of the mindset that it's like, preseason game, hasn't played since September, let's not weigh this one too much?
I mean, that's kind of how you justify it, right? Because when you're watching it, you want to see him do well. You want him to succeed. You want Trey Lance to come out and look great and be on time and being throwing accurate balls and have time to throw in the pocket. Clearly not all his fault. The offensive line did not look good in this game. Trey Lance looked very indecisive. There was so many times where I'm like, throw the ball. Okay. All right. You know, I'm like, it's preseason. Relax.
Yeah.
But
I think that was the worst. Like what? The interception, and I love how Kyle put it. I think Kyle nailed it after the game when he talked about Trey Lance. And, he didn't crush Trey Lance. He thought, he was hoping he was going to, have a couple of longer drives there at the end once they got a little rhythm and the offense started rolling. But he looked at it, and I didn't hear his comments until I had gone back through the film and watched the game again. It was like the nearly intercepted ball that became a touchdown at the end of the fourth drive, I believe it was, for the 49ers in that game. He's like, yeah, I mean, Kyle was like, I liked that he let it rip. And I think that's what we all were watching that game. There's too indecisive. And at this point, I know he hasn't played a lot, but year 3, you're running vanilla stuff. You should feel a little bit more comfortable. And he just didn't look that comfortable, but I just like seeing him let it rip. I don't care if it bounced off a Raiders chest. He saw something, he took a shot at it, and he fired the thing in there. I want to see more of that from him. And I think we'll see a lot more good than bad if he is letting it rip.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to see more chances, right? We need to see more opportunities. We need to see him actually out there playing football. I don't remember where I saw it. It was a great tweet, and it broke down his high school snaps, his college snaps, and every snap he's taken in a pro NFL game. And I don't remember which quarterback it was, but it was like it was less than what one quarterback had last season, which is incredible.
That might have been my tweet. So this was going into last season, actually. It was last offseason, and Tom Brady led the league in attempts, like 700 and something attempts. Like Tom Brady threw the heck out of the ball in 2021. And so Trey Lance was coming into his first year as a starter, and Tom Brady had thrown more passes in like my angle for it was at that time was like, look, this is one of the 32 quarterbacks Trey Lance is going to be competing with this year in his first year as a starter. This guy, in just his most recent season, Tom Brady attempted like 700 passes, which was more than NFL, college, and high school combined for Trey Lance. And guess what? He has 20 years of pro experience in front of that as well. So that was like how far away experience-wise Trey Lance is with one of his peers. Now, Tom Brady since retired, but Trey Lance got a game plus last year added to that. Yeah. So still not much at all. It's unbelievable. And I actually have an updated one from my buddy Jeff Deeney, friend of the program, PFF analyst. This is this offseason before the season starts here. So this is the number of career dropbacks in the NFL plus college for the 49ers quarterbacks. Sam Darnold has nearly 3,000, 2,950. Brock Purdy, 1,940, played a ton of college ball. Brandon Allen hasn't played much in the NFL and played a couple of years, started a couple of years, I believe, for I think it's Arkansas, right? In college. And I liked him in college coming out. And he has 1,076 NFL college career dropbacks, not just snaps, but these are, dropbacks, passing attempts or scrambles in college and in the NFL. And Trey Lance has half as many as Brandon Allen, 495. So 2,500 less dropbacks than Sam Darnold. And you see that in a preseason game number 1, when a guy like Sam Darnold, who's probably kind of annoyed that he's in the second half of preseason week number 1 playing, as is Brandon Allen. These guys were playing much earlier last year in their respective preseason games. And, Sam Darnold's he started 55 games and Trey Lance has started 4 games. And you see that. He looked much more like a veteran quarterback and much more ready to play today. But it's not about just today. There's a bigger picture here.
So do you want to see the same setup again this weekend? Do you want to see a whole half of Lance again, just to kind of give him that time, right? Let him make the mistakes. Give him time in the offense to work things out and figure it out. Or would you rather see Darnold get those snaps coming in this weekend and see how he looks in this Kyle Shanahan offense?
So I have a feeling, and I still feel like it's going to go this way, because Trey Lance, because all of we're going to get into some of the comments from people who are plugged into the 49ers. We've heard it from Mike Silver. I've got a quote here from Greg Papa, 49ers play-by-play guy, who talks to the coaches, before every game, and he's around. Those are people that would know. They're plugged in. We hear it from Schefter, national media, guys like Rappaport, Albert Breer, stuff like that. But you don't really see it play out in practice and on the field. Trey Lance has been first in everything all offseason, OTAs, first snaps, training camp, first snaps. And so it started the first preseason game. So it'll be a big flip if Darnold goes first, but I have a feeling Kyle has always wanted to be like a fair competition. And I expected Trey to start the first one and Sam to start the second one. So
Same.
whether Brock plays or not, I'm not sure, but I think there's an opportunity for Sam to go first. And if Sam's better again, Sam will stay ahead of Trey Lance.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that's the way
right.
it's going to go. So Trey might only really have one more to show something that he should be the number 2 over Sam Darnold. But if Sam Darnold does play first, and especially if Brock Purdy plays also, then they should get out quickly because Trey needs the most. Trey needs whether it's second and third quarter, the entire first half, the entire second half, whatever it is, he needs to play like another full half and get as many reps underneath his belt as possible.
And I think he will. I think even if you do see him come in, in the third quarter or something like that, I bet he plays well into the fourth. And I think they kind of know what they've got in Brandon Allen. He has a little bit more tape than Lance does at this point. And like you said, just a lot more snaps. But before we get off of this game real quick, I did want to kind of give a shout out to a couple of guys I thought played well in the game. I'm sure you've already touched on it many times, but
save that for next. Yeah, let's tease that one because Wink was in the stink to start here. We're gonna give you the positives from preseason week number 1, the comments from Greg Papa about Sam Darnold, maybe even pushing beyond number 2 QB for the San Francisco 49ers, which sounds kind of bonkers, I know, but you'll hear the maybe we'll give you the audio here, and then some of the other position battles going on in preseason week 2 and 3 coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Nutrafol. You don't have to choose between better hair growth and your health. Nutrafol provides a whole body health approach for men that promotes healthier hair. No drugs, no compromises, just better hair. Did you know that 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? It's normal, but it doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning hair with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Cover that scalp. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-based ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health and those types of side effects with Nutrafol. So take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men. That is spelled Nutrafol, Nutrafol.com/men and enter promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. All right, how about some positive takeaways, Wink, from preseason number 1? Who'd you get excited about out there on the football field for the 49ers?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ronnie Bell just instantly stood out, right? I mean, he looked like a good late-round steal yet again for the 49ers, as they like to do. He just looked explosive. He looked like he understood what he was doing out there, and that's what you want to see when you're out there running with the 2s and the 3s, and you want someone to stand out. And I think if anybody, overall, I think Ronnie Bell maybe had the best game. I think the second best, or maybe even close to that, is a guy you don't want to have a great game, and that's my boy Mitch Wishnowsky, because he looked fantastic coming off of his injury, averaging 49 yards a punt, had one chance to kick it in the 20 and did. I mean, he's a stud. And Mitch Wishnowsky looks at preseason or mid-season form.
I forgot he started camp on the injured list.
Yeah.
And the 49ers were like, we're not even going to bring in some other kicker to screw around. Like, we're going to wait for Mitch.
We know what we got.
Weeks because, so Wink's already on the wish watch for 2023. I love that one.
Always.
Yeah.
How about Jalen Graham? I thought he played well, kind of had a nose for the ball. Same with Jair Brown, couple of guys that, just really, you could tell, understand football and really are ball hawks.
Both of them around the ball. I think it's really the overriding theme for the whole game. It was who was playing fast and who was not. Ronnie Bell, a rookie rounder, playing fast.
Yeah.
Braden Willis, a rookie 7th rounder, playing fast. Jalen Graham, rookie 7th rounder. D. Winters, rookie 6th round linebacker. All those guys playing fast, and your 3rd-year quarterback playing slow. And so
Deshaun Jameson looking quick out there too on kick returns, like just looking good.
He kind of played fast slowly.
Yeah,
you know
he was patient. Like, he looked like Le'Veon Bell a little bit, where he's just like, I'm gonna wait.
In so long, it was like, oh, dude, it was like, oh, this is a walk in the park. Here's the whole boom. I'm gonna take it.
That was awesome. And you know, Kyle loves that like one step in the dirt and go kind of speed.
Hey, oh my God, I didn't think about that before. We had the wide back. What about the? Well, it's already a cornerback, so you can't call it that. What would it be for?
Got to think of a new name for this guy.
Playing running back, a little wide zone. You get in an injury crunch. You put that number 22 back there in the backfield and let him run the football.
I like it. Yeah,
Evan Hester style, right?
Yeah. Set him in motion. Get the defense thinking
that Hester has, but like he got to the 40-yard line too easily almost. He's like, oh, this is simple. Yeah. This is what I do. And I watched the tape on. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, if you look at the box score, it doesn't look great because there were a lot of penalties, but it wasn't because of the penalties that he was doing well, that he looked good out there.
Confident.
Exciting.
So let's see confidence from the rookies. Things maybe we're going a little fast for Jake Moody. Maybe the heart beating a little bit more in real game action or semi-real game action versus just nailing everything in practice. So that was dude.
Which he did again today at practice. Made them all. No problem.
Right, exactly. So look, and hopefully he makes them all the next time, and overcorrected from the first miss because he nearly missed the extra point the same way to the left side.
Sure did.
He hit really left and then missed it opposite right. So maybe getting his head a little bit. Things tighten up for you too. And like it's kind of been the thing. It's the thing with Trey too, and the thing with Moody, different positions, different draft slots, but trading up to number 3.
Yeah.
If Trey Lance was just even a regular 1st-round pick or a late 1st-round pick or a 3rd-round pick, nobody would care. Brock Purdy's the starter. Who cares what happens? But the battles we had over who's the best quarterback in the draft, who they going to draft from March 2021 on, right? And going up and spending everything they spent to go get their quarterback, and everyone had their own favorite quarterback picked, and then Trey Lance ends up being the guy. And then, just the whole process has been wild. So that's why there's so much focus on Trey Lance. And then kicker, it's different, but still like 3rd-round kicker. It's like, okay, we got a veteran kicker who wants to resign apparently, or is willing to resign, that hasn't missed a playoff kick does not miss, has not 100%. And you're like, okay, but no, we're going to draft a 3rd-round kicker. And then
of course he comes out and misses his first 2 kicks.
Right. And it's like, oh my God. And the microscope's going to be on him. So more questions and just more eyeballs on it might make for a little tighter human being. Right. So that's the worry there. And hopefully he gets over it. And he seems like not the type to be the guy that would have the yips maybe. But once you start missing them,
scary.
I mean, it's like
the Chuck Knobloch effect, man.
It's like when you stand at like first tee, you get to you go golfing, you go on the first tee, you're striping them at the range, and then there's like people watching and strangers watching, and you're teeing off first, and you're like, oh, okay, it's kind of weird, and you just like hit 3/4 speed just hit the fairway, just don't have to go.
You're like, I don't even care how far it goes, just hit it straight. I don't want to be over there in that fairway. I don't want to be looking in that rough down there. I don't want to dribble it forward either. I don't want to hit a sky ball. All these things going through your mind, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure Moody had a little bit of that going on, and
money on the line.
We'll chalk it up to first game. Well, yeah, of course. He's got a lot of money on the line. He's got a contract. He needs a job.
Okay. Any other standouts to you before we move on to the comments about Sam Darnold from Mr. Greg Papa?
Yeah, I thought Fumagalli looked pretty good too. I mean, out there just kind of trying to get a 3rd string, tight end job, and I think he's shown well. It looked good.
It was already really tight. That's easily the best training camp battle right now. And Fumagalli wasn't really part of the conversation because it was the 2 draft picks, Latu, the 3rd rounder. Speaking about things moving fast, he looks really overwhelmed right now, and practice hasn't been good for him either. Drops, fumbles. The 7th rounder outplaying him right now. You have the 2 veteran guys that aren't locks to make the roster. And so that's 4, and not counting George Kittle, who's the lockiest of locks. And then Fumagalli says, no, guess what? I'm going to be the best tight end in preseason football. How about that? And so
I liked it. He looked like he understood what was going on. Same thing. Good blocks, good
making a little play.
Yeah. Good hands. Like, I was impressed. I know it's one game and, he's probably a long shot at this point to make the squad, but hey, these are the guys you root for, right? You keep an eye on.
Highest PFF grade for the entire game as well was Fumagalli.
Look at that.
So,
gosh, I don't even want to look at what the offensive line's grades were. They were not good.
They were surprisingly not terrible because some of the run blocking grades for guys that were getting.
Oh, sure.
So now, that was the one I thought Zakelj was going to have because I thought he had the roughest day of any 49er.
So rough.
His run blocking grades were good enough to buoy. His pass blocking, he did have the worst pass blocking grade. It was bad.
30, screen door out there, just letting everybody in, just open and close, open close.
Back. That was. It was like your offense can't function. Get him out of the game. No. I don't care if it's preseason.
You have to.
The rest of your guys have to be able to practice, and you can't practice.
Yeah, you got to protect your guys too. You don't want your quarterback taking big hits because your right guard can't block anybody. Like, come on.
That was a little bit frustrating. But maybe that's how good the backup and third string D line is for the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, that's when numbers lie, right? I mean, you look at the box score for Trey Lance too, and it looks fantastic.
Oh,
he's got like 111 QB rating or something. You're like, no.
And Brandon Allen's the one that ends up with the touchdown or the interception. It went right through somebody's hands, and he had some really nice throws. I thought he played the best quarterback actually for the 49ers in that game. And Sam Darnold was good too. What about Sam Darnold? Not only is he locked into QB2, is he potentially even closer to QB1 than QB3? Let's talk about that one next. Thank you once again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Make sure you are subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. All right, Wink, did you hear the comments from Greg Papa?
I did.
I don't want to actually play the audio just in case, it's a KMBR radio, local radio, my former workplace. I don't want to get anybody mad at me because I'm rebroadcasting their audio here, but I'm going to give you a little bit of the quote from Greg Papa talking about Sam Darnold. He said, "To me, Sam Darnold is clearly a better player than Trey Lance. It's not close. And I think Sam can push Brock Purdy, honestly." So what are your thoughts there? Is Sam Darnold a better player today? How much does that factor into the decisions the 49ers make here at quarterback in the next month? And is Darnold so good? Do you think the 49ers like him so much that he's actually pushing Purdy more so than competing with Lance? I've never heard that one. I was a little surprised to hear that from Greg Papa. And Greg Papa talks to the coaches. He talks to Kyle Shanahan, right? They do pregame work to prepare for these broadcasts. He's around the building. Mike Silver said something somewhat similar last week about, cutting Trey Lance. I think, he was more about, maybe I think cutting was probably not accurate because salary cap stuff, it costs more to cut him than to keep him. So that would surprise me. But if they give him away in a trade, that might be something that is in the cards if the 49ers really like Darnold and Allen that much. What do you think?
So, I mean, to me, obviously, I don't think he's pushing Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's got this number one spot locked up unless he, falls on his face for a few games in a row. It's going to be his job. But, I mean, you mentioned a trade. I mean, maybe this is the 49ers brass kind of putting it out there like, hey, we got too many quarterbacks right now. We need to trade one of them. Look at this Sam Darnold guy. He's fantastic. He's pushing our number one. He's clearly our number two. Like, anybody need a backup quarterback? We got a bunch of them. Which one do you want? And if he does come out and starts preseason game 2, looks great, do the 49ers trade Sam Darnold? Do they get something for him? Does that really boost his stock way up and actually makes him more valuable to the 49ers by going elsewhere than by sticking around? I mean, he did look good. He didn't look great, but he looked like he understood the offense pretty well for a guy that, hasn't even been there for a full year. That was pretty impressive to see. I'd like to see him play more. I'd like to see him out there for multiple snaps early in the game, which we're probably going to see this weekend. But for him to possibly push Lance, yeah, I think right now he probably is a better quarterback than Trey Lance. It's not Trey Lance's fault. He just hadn't had the time. But based on what we've seen from Sam Darnold, especially towards the end of last season, he looked great. He looked fantastic. And now he's in a better offense, better weapons, got to have a better offensive line when the season starts. Like, Why not? Why can't Sam Darnold be the next big thing in the NFL if he's starting under center for the 49ers? Don't think he's going to.
Yeah.
But he could, sure.
And he's had some good practices. Trey's had some good practices. Brock's had some good practices. I think there probably hasn't been a lot of separation if you were just starting. Everybody was starting from scratch and you were just watching these guys play. I don't think there's even been a huge, one guy's amazingly better than any of the others. Really, with all four of the quarterbacks in 49ers practice, they all have strengths and weaknesses, and they've all had good days and bad days. But we know they didn't start from zero. They didn't all start at the same spot.
Right.
And with Sam Darnold, clearly looked more comfortable in the first preseason game. I don't think there's any doubt there. And then there's the idea of floor versus ceiling. If you're looking at a backup quarterback and you're not going to get a ton of reps for Trey, the development's not going to happen. Like the development is not going to continue like you would need for him to be what he needs to be after the preseason is over. And does the veteran fit better as your backup quarterback? Right. Or having a veteran like Allen around or Darnold around as the number 3 and still keeping Lance, that way you have both. You got the upside, you got the high floor. Kyle clearly thinks there's still some upside with Sam Darnold too. So I'm sure that's a factor. But I mean, obviously he looked more comfortable, but that's a guy, we just went through the numbers, 3,000 dropbacks versus 500 dropbacks, right?
Yeah.
And Darnold didn't even play that much in college. He only played 2 seasons in college. And 55 starts versus 4 starts. How about this one, Nick? Let me give you this. All
right. What you got?
So Sam Darnold, 55 starts in the NFL. Trey Lance has had 4 starts in the NFL. Here are let's project that Trey Lance gets a start, right? His next start will be his 5th start in the NFL. What would that look like? Do you think it would be better than Sam Darnold's 5th start in the NFL? Here's Sam Darnold's 5th start in the NFL. We're going back to November 2018 against the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins beat the New York Jets 13-6. Sam Darnold, 21 of 39 passing, just 53%, 53.8%, almost 54%, for 229 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That was Sam Darnold's 5th start in the NFL. That's where Trey Lance is experience-wise right now in the NFL. So it would be weird to expect this number 3 pick to be better than that number 3 pick at this point, and then there's coaching and talent around him. Add to that. Right. So
to be fair, this was Sam Darnold's 5th game in the NFL, period. Whereas Trey Lance is now entering his 3rd season. Yes, he's been injured, but he's been around. He's been around the NFL, right?
Trey Lance has 4 more starts experience than Greg Papa does over those 3 years, though. You know what I mean? Like, they're both watching the game. They're both watching the games. Pop's not going.
You're not wrong.
But neither was Trey with the broken ankle.
Right. No, I mean, to me, honestly, would the 49ers, let's say, obviously I don't want any of this to happen. Let's say there's a setback or something happens to Brock Purdy. Do they really feel comfortable going with Trey Lance as the starter when they've loved what they've seen from Sam Darnold? Would they, and you have the experience, you have a team that's ready to win now. You have a team that is Super Bowl bound, right? I mean, this is what the goal is this season. It's not to win the division or get to the playoffs, both cool things, but the 49ers want to win a 6th championship. That's it, plain and simple. So in order to do that, who gives them the best chance? To me, obviously it's Brock Purdy. And if it's not Brock Purdy, is it Trey Lance? Like, is it? I know it's 1 preseason game, but is it?
I would say this. So is it Trey Lance in December?
Yeah,
versus
right.
Trey Lance in
Interesting.
September versus Darnold in September versus Darnold in November, December. Like how quickly, how comfortably are we with Lance and where he's going and where he's going to end up versus where Darnold is right now? Darnold more comfortable, clearly. We saw that. And if that continues the rest of the preseason.
And we've seen glimpses of Darnold with bad offenses, with bad offensive lines, with no weapons, with this and that. And we've seen him shine. We've also seen him look really, really bad without those things too. Right. But he now has
twice a game in those 55 starts. So if he starts doing that, that's not, you can be comfortable until you're comfortable throwing the ball to the other team. So, but
will he ever live down the I'm seeing ghosts out there quote?
Oh, no, man. He couldn't. He just, you can't say that on the mic, man. You can't say that on the mic.
I think you'd have to go win a Super Bowl in order for anybody to kind of let that one slide.
Time too. That's why because Kyle Shanahan compared him to Steve Young. It's like, why can't he be Steve Young? I was like, let's compare him to Geno Smith. let him kind of disappear for a few years with good coaching, then show up. Like, let's, 12 practices with no contact is not going to change Sam Darnold to a new human being. But maybe a few years of unlearning bad habits and learning good habits, staying with an organization in an offense in a stable situation. All of a sudden he shows up at 30 and you're like, oh man, he's sucked at 25. He's pretty good at 30. Maybe that could be a path for Sam Darnold. But maybe just all it needed was a little magic dust from Kyle Shanahan in one offseason, and he's a new guy. I don't know.
I mean, it's got to be nice having Debo and Ayuk and Kittle and McCaffrey and Juice and, all these guys to throw to and to work in an offense with. I just think that you put the right quarterback in there that understands what's happening in this system. I think the 49ers are going to win. I don't care who it is. If it's the guy that's making the right decisions and isn't making the big mistakes and can make the decision, can pull the trigger, get out there, make the plays, Trey. See if your arm can make that throw, right? I mean, Darnold threw into triple coverage at one point and nobody's talking about it because it wasn't picked off and it wasn't caught. But if that had been picked, it'd be like, oh no, here we go. Like we just need somebody that's accurate, that understands where everybody's going to be. And the 49ers are going to win football games. Hopefully that's Brock Purdy the whole season. And if it's not, then hopefully they pick the right number 2 that's going to come in and replace him.
Yeah. And you can see how it lines up pretty easily for, clearly Brock Purdy's the number 1. The veteran and Darnold is 2. They're really comfortable. They like Brandon Allen is the 3. You feel solid about those guys. If someone comes with anything in trade and is willing to take the guaranteed money off Trey Lance, but probably better for Trey Lance as well to have an opportunity to develop somewhere else, maybe have a better chance at playing and seeing reps that he needs. It could be beneficial to all sides, and that's becoming pretty clear. But does someone come with a trade? And if they don't, do you just cut Allen? Does someone call about Darnold and not Lance and make that decision easier for the 49ers? Does someone, I was talking to Jake Lisco, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Bengals. He's like, what's going on with Brandon Allen? Because he was the backup to Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow's hurt.
Hey, we'll take it back.
He's like, yeah, is he going to get cut? Is he going to get cut anytime soon? And I kind of explained the situation to him. I was like, oh, maybe get a 7th or something for Brandon Allen in the end. Maybe that happens. Maybe nobody ends up getting cut after all.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if any of those 3 guys got traded. Honestly, any of the 3. I think that if they find the right suitor and they don't have to just cut anybody and just lose them, because I don't think you're going to sneak any of those guys on the practice squad. Like, it's just not going to happen.
And you know how competitive John Lynch is. Like, he wants to win that. He's like, yeah, give me something, guys. There's going to be some vultures circling. He's like, you give me a gosh darn draft pick right now.
Yeah.
He's competitive, which I love it. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I want running my team.
We'll see. You don't want to overblow one small sample of one preseason game, as little as preseason games mean, but some things do matter and context matters in all of this. And of course, we're going to break all of preseason game 2 down as well. And we'll chat with Nick about it next Wednesday. Appreciate you as always, Nick, on another successful Winky Wednesday.
Yeah, my pleasure, buddy.
Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers. Become one. Just subscribe up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Croc and I back tomorrow right here. Locked On 49ers.
See ya.